Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel, Jerry Hamilton, and Rod Babers. We're talking about breakout candidates for the Longhorns in 2026, looking at which Longhorns we think are going to be stars next season. Before we do that, though, let's hear from our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. That's our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
So there's always the caveat, what constitutes a breakout player? And just when we came up with this topic, guys, the first player I thought of was Lance Jackson for a variety of reasons. I think we saw enough of him in his role to feel like, hey, you extrapolate those snaps out over a full season, you're going to get a really productive player. And with Ethan Burke moving on to the NFL, being out of eligibility, you're going to need somebody to be that running mate opposite of Colin Simmons to take some of the pressure off of and make sure you can get heat on the quarterback. I think Lance Jackson can be that guy. CJ, since in this format, you're at the top of the screen for me, I'll let you go first with your pick.
Yeah, I like how I gave myself the second pick here, right? So I'm going to stick with that.
That'd be a great one.
Incoming sophomore class year. I feel like I'm going to get a discount here, but Kade Phillips is going to be my pick. And look, I know that we saw him late in the season. He started against Arkansas, started against Texas A&M. Texas trusted him right away to play press man against Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. That's a pretty big nod of approval and sign of trust from Mark Orfe and that Texas defensive staff. Look, he's got the length. And for me, the big thing that really hasn't been talked about a lot, I know that we've talked about, his ability to play the football. He did so more than what felt like any other cornerback this year for the Longhorns, but he's very physical, right? And there were about 8 catches, eight receptions on 14 targets that were allowed this year by Kade Phillips, only 13 yards after the catch. So when the ball's completed on him, he's in a position to make the play and bring down potential playmakers after the catch. I love that, right? So physical length, plays the football. He actually led the team or tied for the team lead in pass breakups as well. I'm all for Kade Phillips. I think we're looking at another 3-and-done cornerback at the University of Texas.
Jerry, you and I were both thinking defensive lineman, and you kicked around a couple of guys. Who'd you settle on?
I settled on Justice Terry. And I think this one's a pretty easy one because if you just said he'll end his freshman season, now knowing he had a big task in front of him, he was working out at edge, big edge. He was working out on the interior. He would sit in the meeting rooms of both. He was trying to add weight to his frame and maintain that weight, which he did in the low 270s this season. But if you'd have told me Justice Terry to have 8 tackles and no sacks this year, beginning of the year, I'd have said, that's probably a bit off. But that makes him an easy breakout candidate for me because there's no way you saw what he could do against Georgia. He started coming on the last few games of the season, especially in the practice setting where Texas is more comfortable giving him snaps. He had the big pressure to cause the interception against Marcel Reed. Michael Taft had the interception in that A&M game. Guys, I think he's going to go from a guy that was talked about coming out of high school. This guy's a 5-star prospect and he has so much talent when he picked Texas over Georgia. So I think he's going to become very close to that player this year. I see a huge jump from year 1 to year 2 with him. It wouldn't shock me if we didn't look up and we're talking about the end of next year with Justice Terry and he's got 30, 35 tackles and 5 or 6 sacks. I think he has that because here's the other thing. Texas needs a disruptor on the interior. And not that Alex January can't be, not that Murad Watson, when he's healthy, can't be, but Justice Terry brings a different pass rush and disruptive ability to the interior to defensive line position, while also still being able to play some big edge if you need him to in year 2. I think Justice Terry is about to take a massive step year 1 to year 2, and I think that step is going to be huge for the Longhorns to have a 285, 290-pound guy, which will probably be next year, disrupt as a pass rusher.
Yeah, Jerry, I want to go around the horn with this, but I'll start with you. And Rod, this is something you and I have talked about for years. Like what is kind of a chicken or an egg thing? Does a great pass rush, do you need that to help your coverage, or do you need coverage to help your pass rush? And Jerry, when you talk about the pass rush, look, one thing I think we on this channel were right about all off season was, hey, this had the potential to maybe be the best pass rush in the country. And you look at the end of the regular season, Texas tied for the lead in FBS in sacks. But Jerry, to your point, with me picking Lance Jackson, you picking Justice Terry, they need those guys to step up because you lose Anthony Hill, you lose Trey Moore. We'll see what Brad Spence's role is, but Jerry, you're going to need to make up a lot of sacks. You're going to need guys to take some of that pressure off of Colin Simmons because, especially with those guys gone, I mentioned Ethan Burke leaving for the NFL. We'll see what happens with Hero Kanu. You're missing enough pieces here to where teams, maybe especially early in the season, can focus more on Colin Simmons than they otherwise might have.
Yeah, and look, I think Lance Jackson and Justice Terry are going to make life easier on Colin Simmons next year, Rod, guys, because, look, Ethan Burke was a really good all-around player, but he wasn't a pass rush guy necessarily. I think Lance Jackson's about to take it to another level for Texas. And these are bigger bodies, too. We're talking about 6'6", 280, 6'6", 275 type of guys coming off the edge. That's going to make life for Colin Simmons much easier next year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also it's going to make life easy for Kade Phillips.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, guys on the back end, and that's I was a young sophomore starting with Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers on the defensive line. I thought playing cornerback in college football was easy. I found out later, it's only easy because those quarterbacks did not have much time to throw, and those guys would collapse that pocket and penetrate actually from the interior gaps as well. So I'm with you, man. You can make a quarterback's life hell. We talk about this all the time. I mean, protection beats coverage. You can have really good coverage, but if a quarterback's got enough protection, they can beat that coverage. But what beats protection? Pressure. Pressure beats protection. And that's what Texas' blueprint on defense is based on, that even though they had some issues in the back end last season, they were able to, generate a lot of pressure and cause a lot of havoc. And ultimately, that'll help the back end out tremendously. And I think it'll help these young DBs out too.
CJ, anything to add on that with your pick of Kade Phillips? And look, I mean, we'll see, if Malik Muhammad heads to the NFL, if Jelani McDonald heads to the NFL. I know we talked about on the channel recently, you could have some more inexperience on that back end.
Yeah, and that was, something I was wondering about. Do you really trust a true sophomore to be your cornerback one? And I think it's a case-by-case thing, but, it certainly helps when you have that pass rush, right? I think Kade Phillips is up to that task. And look, we've talked about what Texas needs to continue to do in the back end to shore up communication and assignment sound football. But look, when you're able to pressure the quarterback the way that Texas was against an Arkansas, against, a Texas A&M late, and you play that tight man, things get very difficult for opposing quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks who are not, precise with their passes. So that's how you allow tips, overthrows. That's how you get into a position to get hands on the football. It all starts with pressure up front. And one thing I hope to see a little bit more of with a Justice Terry, with Lance Jackson next year, is hands in the passing lane. I thought Ethan Burke was fantastic at it last year. I thought Rod Watson had a few moments. Aside from that, I thought it was a bit hit or miss up front. I thought Alfred Collins was fantastic at it. And,
yes, it was.
That's one thing that you learn with experience. So that's something I'm looking forward to breaking out as well with that defensive front.
Rod, let's get your pick. Are you going to make it a clean sweep for the defense, or are you going to pick somebody here on the offense to break out in 26?
Yeah, the easy pick here is to go with Jonah Williams, but I'm not going to do that. There's an asterisk there anyway because he's splitting his time between baseball and football, so it may take him a little bit longer. That is the easy pick, but that's too boring because we'll go all on defense. So I'm going to go offense. It said y'all monopolize the defensive side of the ball. I'm gonna mention a couple of guys on offense. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna cheat here. Number one, I'm gonna go with Emmett Mosley. That seems like an easy pick as a guy who's going to break out because, he was injured early on in the season. But you saw the more reps he got, the better he got, and he'll get more, chemistry, and they'll have more of that bromance with Arch Manning as he gets more reps in the system. But there is no doubt, man, the future is really bright for that young man. He's got a really high upside, and I just think he's really polished. For a young receiver, you just don't see receivers that are that refined and their game is that mature. And I think for him, that's why I think Sark loves him. Obviously, can already play all the different positions, so there's position fluidity. You can move him around. And with some of the inconsistency with the wide receivers, drops last season, guys not really out thriving in the roles that Sark meant for these guys in the receiver. I think there is opportunity for Emmett Mosley to kind of rise up in the hierarchy of that circle of trust that we talk about. So Emmett Mosley, one. And I'm going to go with Nick Townsend. I'm going to go as a throw-in, Nick Townsend. And the reason I like Nick Townsend is because, first of all, Sark came up with a very creative way to weaponize that guy against A&M with the fly sweep handoff to Nick Townsend, but also physicality. You guys brought it up. I think that's one thing that all these guys have in common. This team needs to get more physical. Kirby Smart called you out after the Georgia game straight up and said some guys won't checks, but they don't want physicality. He was talking about you. And Sark knows that. And if you ain't going to beat Kirby Smart unless you get a more physical edge, Nick Townsend is that physical edge. Arch Manning talked about it. He said one thing that young man brings is physicality as a freshman. So it's natural. It's naturally programmed, ingrained in him. It's a part of his football DNA. And you need more players like that if you're going to beat teams like Georgia. You just need a physical mindset. Every time that guy comes on the field, he's trying to take somebody's head off. I think Sark appreciates that. I think because of his athletic upside, Jerry talks about it all the time, athletic profile is over the top. I mean, this guy he's just Tuesday, got athletic traits at the wazoo. So I think ultimately you can turn him into more of a weapon in the passing game. But as a blocker, he's got the natural physicality, right? That natural mentality of physicality that you don't have to teach at that tight end. And honestly, they've been lacking at tight end. They haven't had that. They've got capable blockers, competent blockers. These guys ain't scared, but they haven't had a guy like Nick Townsend who is literally trying to embarrass and humiliate and put somebody in the ground on every play. They need that kind of mentality. So I don't know. I think he had less than 100 snaps total or something this year. That's my breakout guy. I think he on offense, especially with the amount of 12 personnel Sark likes to play, he's looking for a tight end. He can play more because they're every down tight end. I think he can be an early down tight end for you. They're going to have to work on the passing game, but with the tools that he has, to me, that's an easy leap to make him more of a threat in the passing game.
Yeah. Jerry, I know you're pumped about Nick Townsend, but one other guy I wanted to talk about on offense, and look, I mean, Sark mentioned it in the signing day press conference. There's several position groups on offense that by the time they're done in the portal could look drastically different when they get back in January than they do now. But Jerry, I want to look at running back, and James Simon is a guy that we saw get some burn in non-conference play, especially when Trey Wisner was hurt. Where are you at on James Simon going into 26?
Love him. I think he's got very good instincts as a runner. I think he's got physicality at the running back position. I wish we'd have seen him more in SEC play because I think he could have brought physicality to the inside run game. I think he can run it inside. I think he can run it outside. I think he's got really good hands out of the backfield. I expect him to make a huge second-year leap. Now, he's going to be fighting out with Derek Cooper, right, and whoever comes in out of the portal at running back. If we assume multiple guys leave, we're going to have to see what happens there. But I'm a big James Simon fan. I think he's got the potential to be an NFL running back one day. I think the good thing for him heading into year two will be he is, while he weighed 205, 207, that frame could get a lot stronger. And I think you'll see him get a lot stronger headed into year two, where if he becomes one of the two main backs for this team, he can handle what comes with that. But I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good football player.
CJ, I don't know if there's any other position groups on offense or any other players on offense that stand out, but maybe some guys that we should be talking about at this point. I think maybe the interior defensive line, Alex January, Murad Watson. And I don't know that it's necessarily breakout, but it's just those guys stepping into bigger roles. Anybody else top of mind for you, CJ, on this team for a breakout guy?
Yeah, I think you could really point to that entire defensive line room, right? Whether it's Murad Watson, Alex January, Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles. I think that whole room is destined for a breakout if my camera would ever come back here. I could tell you a little bit more in depth, but no, I think that that whole room is talented. There's a lot of bodies right now that I think is even more so waiting to break out. As a defensive lineman at Texas. And it's not a flashy spot, right? But it's a valuable spot. It's something that, as we all mentioned here, interior pressure is huge. And to stop the run, to allow teams or to force teams into throwing the football more, that's what Texas has basically built its defense on over the last 2 years. But I'm going to throw another one at you. And, of course, some other dominoes have to happen first for this to be a potential. But let's say Ryan Niblett goes pro, right? One of the best punt returners in the entire country. You parlay that into – what is my NFL draft stock? Will it ever be higher? Probably not. I'm going to take the leap and go pro. Dalen McCutcheon would be that pick for me as a punt return man. And Texas has had, 4 consecutive years as a top 15 punt return unit in the country. They've obviously had 3 straight returners, Xavier Worthy, Silas Bolden, and now Ryan Niblett return punts for touchdowns. That's a lot of the blocking scheme year after year. Jeff Banks has drawn it up completely. I think that unit for, some of the roller coasters that we've seen over the last 2 years, that's one where, look, the ride down is very fun. You're screaming, enjoying the ride. Punt return and Dalen McCutcheon, he is that second guy. I would say he could be a breakout special team return man for the Longhorns next year as well.
Rod, the only other guys I was thinking about would be, Bo Barnes is a guy I thought about just because by the time you get around to addressing your top of the line needs in the portal, maybe you don't have a linebacker that you feel can make an immediate impact. So maybe you just rely on Bo Barnes to take a step. And we know he's going to be asked to play a lot more anyway. So I think he's a candidate. But Rod, I want to, as we wrap this up, I want to get to Jonah Williams because the talent is there. We see it. It's just, hey, he's going to be splitting his time with baseball again. So where are you at, Rod, on Jonah Williams as he continues to balance the 2-sport life?
I still think he is gifted enough where you could still see a breakout from him, even with him balancing 2 sports and not giving his full attention to football. I just think that's how talented the young man is. I think it hurts hurts that possibility that he will have a breakout because, knocking on wood, obviously the more you play and compete at a high level, the more chances for injuries. Has some durability issues that affects him obviously on the gridiron too. But I said it when I first saw him on film. I told you, I said, man, I think that dude could win the Thorpe. Now, I ain't saying he was going to win the Thorpe. That's kind of what discussion we're having. Is he going to focus totally on football? Is he going to be durable enough? All those things. But in terms of the upside and the potential, there's no doubt. And that's why I think Texas, they're willing on both sides, by the way, baseball and football, to wait it out with the young man and not pressure him like, hey, what do you want to do? I do think at one point, as Jerry's pointed out, a decision will have to be made on his point just so that he can give himself the best chance to be successful. All right. So I don't know when that's going to be. But I think for Texas, you can still, if you're the coaches, you can still plan on him being one of your main contributors in the secondary. Is he going to be a starter for you? He's definitely got the potential. But will those other guys devote more time to it and be able to put more work in and earn the trust of the coaches just because they've been around more than Jonah? That's going to be. But think about it. The guy was hurt and split time and still ended up being a part of that quarter package that they threw out there. And I'm telling you, I think a big part of that quarter package was we got to find a way to get this dude on the field. Yeah. It was that NASCAR package I told y'all when he came out with. I was saying, honestly, it feels like the whole reason for the NASCAR package is we got to get Colin Simmons on the field. And now we look at Colin Simmons and go, well, hell yeah, he's worth having his own package. That guy's that damn good. And I'm telling you, that quarter package, they put it out there when they put 7 DBs on the field. They hadn't used it till this year. I think a big part of it was because they're not necessarily that deep at DB. Right. I mean, there were some DB issues. I think it was like, nah, man, can we find a way to put Jonah Williams on the field? Y'all got a way to do it? Let's do it. Because I want to see him out there. And I think that's the kind of upside he has. So I am still really high on him. I still think the future of your secondary, a big part of it, he's still a big part of the future of this Texas secondary with his flexibility, versatility, and playmaking ability. It's an instinctual playmaker back there. You guys talk about it. Y'all need disruptors up front. You need playmakers on the back end. He's one of them guys. You can find good sound football players, assignment sound football players. Hard to find those guys who are just natural playmakers on the back end. He checks that box.
Jerry, you get the last word here.
Yeah, so I agree on Jonah Williams' talent, and I could see him having a breakout season as long as he gets out of baseball healthy versus last year, right? I agree with Rod. Like I think Jonah is one of the, and this is a talented football roster, one of the most 7 or 8 gifted players on this football roster.
Wow.
I mean, I really think he is. And, he could factor into any return game as well. But the hard thing for me, Rod, with him is if you never ran for spring practice, how much is that setting back his development as a football player? And not in Torrey Beckton's offseason program, right? But I 100% agree with Rod. I think he's going to be I think he's going to have a breakout season of sorts as long as he's healthy. I think what really hurt him this year was he got the football not healthy. He had a hamstring issue. And guys that are 6'3", 210 and run and hit guys that with ball skills, if they have a hamstring injury, they're on the sideline. There is no chance they're going to be able to perform. So that set him way back. But Jonah Williams is an incredibly talented player. And I'll say this, too, for him next year. Football season is going to be massive for Jonah Williams because depending on how that goes for him, guys, he's draft eligible after the spring in baseball next year. Is he not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Decisions. Yeah.
If he has a great season in baseball this year, and then football, he has a good season, but his development set back because he's never around for football, and he goes off again in baseball, he's draft eligible.
Yep.
It may make his decision maybe made for him in a weird way.
Yeah.
No doubt. That'll be one of the storylines to watch for sure in 2026. All right. CJ, Rod, Jerry, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care for sponsoring this. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, that's all right. You can get over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our Longhorn coverage all year round. For CJ, for Rod, for Jerry, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.